I thought you said wait. Okay, members of council, this meeting is now resumed. Before we do the member motion run-through, I would take the release of member holds. Councillor McMahon.
Actually, I had just a little presentation for a minute.
Okay, Councillor McMahon.
Sure. So there's a picture on the screen, and I want to invite all of you to come down to our second City Hall store, which I'm not sure all of you are aware. This is a shipping container shop down at Bay and Queen, run by Spacing, and you can get all your souvenirs for your family, friends, enemies, anyone else. And they're open Wednesdays, 11 to 6 p.m., and it was 2 years in the making. Thank you, Josie Scioli and Jill Bata, for helping us out with City Hall store. Chontopia.
Thank you. Councillor Mahavik.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Top of page 10, TE 34.208, approvals for 1996-2000 Bathurst Street development. Really, I just need to move receipt. Long story short, the bylaws are before us, and that's really what was the intent of this request for a report. And the bylaws are before us, so I'm all good. So,
okay, so you're just moving.
Page 10.
So you're just moving receipt.
Yes, which allows the development to go forward.
All right. So on page 10, TE 34. Oh, just a sec. I'm in the middle of something, Councillor Shiner. Okay. Okay, hold on. Councillor Shiner, you have an issue with this item? Yes, Councillor Shiner?
I was waiting for the mic. Yes, I would just like to read the recommendations in the report before we receive this item.
Okay, so hold it down.
I will hold it down.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong.
Yes, page 7, North York Community Council, 32.16, request for a direction report. I have a motion.
Okay, on page 7, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your the number.
3216.
Okay, yes.
15 Mallow Road. We have a motion.
Can I just want to understand it.
It's just extra money for Section 37 to build a playground. If you go down, there's added there. That's the change.
Okay, this is on page 7, NY 32.16. There's an amendment on the screen.
Can you not scroll past the lines that are the amendments? Sorry. That's what I'd like
There
to
you go.
Okay, the amendment's on the screen. On favor? Carried. Item is amended. On favor? Carried.
You got to give them a refund?
Well, they said.
Ready? Oh, you want to do that now? Okay, so we do have some motions that we're going to introduce at this point. No, I said they have during the lunch break. Councillor Cole. And that's it. It's finished now. The door is locked.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is for a request for direction report for development at 2433 Dufferin Street. Staff has submitted this.
On favor? Carried. Councillor Cressy.
Thank you. This is a report from staff that they've asked me to bring forward. It's urgent as the HCD study is underway.
On favor? Carried. Councillor Pasternak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. This is an urgent matter that rectifies a planning development in Ward 10 regarding synchronization of below-grade permits and the building of some stormwater and sewage systems.
On favor? Carried. Councillor Cressy? No, it's Councillor Wong-Tam. No, Councillor Wong, sorry, it's Councillor Wong-Tam.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. This matter is urgent and time-specific because this is conditional to a Section 37 approval to complete the purchase of real estate for this project. Thank you.
On favor? Carried. Councillor Bailao?
Yes, ma'am. This is urgent because there's a hearing in September.
On favor? Carried. Councillor Ainsley?
That Councillor Paula Fletcher be permitted to add to the agenda of today's meeting an urgent motion without notice concerning naming a public property after the late Deputy Mayor Pam McConnell.
On favor? Carried. Councillor Cressy?
Thank you, Speaker. This motion is urgent as construction is already in progress and the staging area is needed in order to move forward.
On favor? Carried. Councillor Fletcher is not here, so who was the seconder on this one? Doesn't really matter, right? Councillor de Bearmaker, did you want to move that on behalf of Councillor Fletcher?
Yep, that the Councillor Fletcher be permitted to add on to the agenda of today's meeting an urgent motion concerning Unilever Precinct Secondary Plan and East Harbour Zoning Bylaw Amendment applications. It's urgent due to the need to avoid undue delay for the project.
On favor? Carried. That's it, okay. All right, so it's not ready yet, Councillor Grimes. Okay, 44.1. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. On favor? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, members, it's on the screen. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor, waiving referral, carried. On the item, all in favor, carried. 44.2. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Scarborough Community Council. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. This motion, please, Councillor Perks. This motion relates to a Toronto local appeal body hearing and has been deemed urgent. All in favor of waiving referral, recorded vote.
Councillor Holland, please. Councillor Holland, please.
The motion to waive referral carries unanimously, 38 in favor.
On the item, on favor, carried. MM 44.3. No, hold on. I'm going to rule this member's motion out of order, okay? So, and the reason for that is council has done a citywide municipal comprehensive review of employment lands and aspects of the OPA adopted are before the board. Any attempt to redesignate employment lands by council is out of order, as it would conflict with the legal process underway to finalize OPA 321. So I'm ruling that out of order. Yes, Councillor Karygiannis?
Thank you very much. We're talking about MM 44.3, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just questioning is why didn't, this is a motion that I put forward, it's seconded by Councillor De Beermaker. Why were not advised of this by staff before it got here to this point?
Well, I know, I'm ruling out of order, I was told by staff. So I'm ruling out of order. If you want to challenge me, you're more than welcome to.
Definitely, Madam Chair, I'd like to challenge you.
Okay. I've been challenged. Recorded vote. Yes to uphold the chair.
Hey, I have to do it.
Out of principle?
Out of principle.
It's good to know someone else.
The staff, the legal department.
Councillor Palacio, please.
Councillor Perruzza, please.
The chair is upheld. The vote is 35 to 5.
Okay. MM 44.4. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. On favor? Carried. On the item, on favor? Carried. MM 44.5. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Etobicoke York Community Council. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. This motion relates to an Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario hearing and has been deemed urgent. All in favor of waiving referral? Carry. Recorded.
Councillor Wong-Tam, please. Councillor Carmichael Greb. Councillor Karygiannis, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Bailao, please.
Councillor De Beermaker, please. Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Robinson.
The motion to waive referral carries 39 to 1.
On the item, all in favor? Carried. Pardon? On the item? Councillor Perruzza wants a recorded vote on the item.
Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Karygiannis, Councillor Bailao, Councillor Pasternak.
Councillor Pillion, please.
Councillor Wong-Tam, please.
The item carries unanimously, 40 in favor.
MM 44.6. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, on favor? Carried. MM 44.7. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 44.8. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Etobicoke York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. Recorded vote.
Councillor Karygiannis, please. Councillor Perruzza.
Councillor DeBearmaker, please.
Councillor Perruzza, you can't be on the phone when we're voting.
The motion to waive referral does not carry. The vote is 21 to 19. The required two-thirds majority has not been achieved.
MM 44.9. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. Recorded vote to waive referral.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor Shiner. Councillor Davis, please. And Councillor Perks. Councillor Karygiannis, please.
Councillor Palacio, please.
The motion to waive referral carries 35 to 6.
On the item, on favor? Pardon? Okay, you want to record it and split. Okay, so on number 1, recorded vote. He wants 1 and 2 voted on separately. Can we split it? Yes, okay, on number 1, recorded vote.
Councillor Burnside, please. Councillor Grimes.
Councillor Bailão, please. Councillor Perruzza. Councillor Perks, please. Councillor Perks.
Part 1 of the motion carries 35 to 5.
Number 2, recorded vote.
Councillor Carmichael Greb. Councillor Matlow, please. Councillor Karygiannis.
Part 2 carries 38-2.
Okay, thank you. Members of council, I'm just going to put everything on hold for a moment. Mayor Tory would like to speak.
Madam Speaker, I apologize for the interruption in Council's consideration of these motions, but we have a visitor with us this afternoon, and it was frankly my delay coming back from Danforth that caused him not to be here sharp at 2:30. He was here at 2:30, I wasn't, but you know, we've been through a great trauma in the last few months. We've gone through things that no city and no community should have to experience. On April 23rd, as everybody here knows, we experienced a van attack on Yonge Street that claimed the lives of 10 people and seriously injured 16 more. And then this Sunday we had the tragedy of the Danforth tragedy, and we are still coming to grips with that. And these are traumatizing events, and they in some respects demonstrate the worst of what people are capable of, but they also shine a light on the best of our shared humanity. And we've spoken about and paid tribute to first responders, and I see our fire chief is here today, and the brave men and women of the police service, fire, EMS. They're always on the scene to help, as they were this past Sunday, as they were back on April the 23rd. But there are also people whose efforts go unnoticed, unacknowledged sometimes, unaddressed, and unsung. And when violence rings out on the streets or terrible accidents happen, these are the people who are simply there on the streets, going about their lives, and find themselves thrust into a situation of unspeakable horror. Civilian first responders, I suppose, would be a formal way in which you could refer to these individuals who are fundamentally just regular people who find themselves in extraordinary circumstances. They're not in uniform, but they're there, offering extraordinary help to people who are very much in need. And once the ambulances leave and the sirens die down, they go back to their lives forever changed, but sometimes their actions and their own life-changing circumstances are not acknowledged or understood. And today we're honored to have one such individual here with us in our council chambers. His name is Rob Greco. He's here with his partner Bronca, and he was on Yonge Street on the afternoon of April the 23rd, driving through the intersection just by chance when he heard the roar of an engine. And he saw the van attack take place. He saw a young woman named Anne-Marie D'Amico struck by the van. And this is the Anne-Marie D'Amico who Councillor Palacio knew so well, and he's taken the step of asking that a park be renamed in her memory. And he has taken the trouble to get to know Mr. Greco as well. And I'll be honest with you, and he doesn't mind my saying this because we were just chatting in my office for a few minutes, and I should tell you, having had him describe how this altered his life, and not entirely in a positive way, he was very anxious about coming up here, and he's not going to speak because I asked him if he wanted to, and he said he didn't. But I can tell you that this man has a heart that is about the size of an elephant's heart, if that's big enough, and he is, I think he's a hero. In fact, I don't think he's a hero. I know he's a hero because what he did was he jumped out of his vehicle and he ran to Anne-Marie D'Amico's side and he held her hand and reassured her. I think you've seen the story. And he waited there with her until the paramedics arrived. And this was all to the point where, in terms of the family's recognition of what he did, he was asked to be a pallbearer at her funeral. And I don't think that is a weight, the whole thing, starting from the minute he chose to stop his van to the minute that he was a pallbearer and to this minute here at the City Council chamber. That will not be a weight that will be easily lifted from his shoulders. And he's one of many, I think, as we know, who performed heroic acts that day and who do these things whenever a tragedy strikes, including this past Sunday. There were people who acted with the same kind of humanity and courage. We've heard about Tanya Wilson, who helped people find safe harbor in her Danforth business on Sunday night when people were fleeing the streets. And she also helped to treat 2 people who had been shot until the paramedics arrived. People like Mark and Tanya acted when they were needed, and so I want to take the chance to extend my thanks on your behalf to them. And I told Rob that in coming up here, he was coming up here for something that I hope will be an uplifting experience for him. He is a person you also read about who, and this is part of what I think we have some responsibility to address, which is that when he did what he did and when the aftermath came upon him, the system, if I can call it that, wasn't necessarily there to support him until people stepped up on his behalf, including journalists and others, to draw attention to the fact that he was not getting the support that he needed. And I just want to say to him, and I know I'm speaking on your behalf, that I'm glad that you're here, that you decided you would come upstairs, which was always the plan. I understand completely, I think we all do, that you would find it a very difficult experience to speak. and that we will pledge to make sure you and people like you, because there are other people like you. It isn't about you, and you made that very clear to me. It's not about you, but it's about people who perform these acts, who do the right thing, making sure that they get the support that they need. And so I want to, and I want to say that Rob would be the first to say that Victim Services has provided plenty of support to him. But one of the things we may have to take up with the province and others is the fact that they have certain limitations on what they can do, which don't often completely cover the needs of the people who step up and do things that, that are extraordinary. And so I want to just say, Rob, to you, that you have our heartfelt thanks, you have our admiration, you have our respect. And the best way we can demonstrate our admiration and our respect and our thanks is to make sure that you and other people, because you made it very clear you were not being selfish or self-centered about this, get the support that you need when you do the right thing, which most assuredly you did. And so on behalf of the members of City Council here in this special place, I say thank you to you and thank you to all the people like you, and that we will make sure that we don't let you down. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Okay, members. MM 4410. Notice that this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Parks and Environment Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. Recorded vote.
Councillor Karygiannis, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 38 in favor.
MM 4411. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Public Works and Infrastructure. 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. Pardon? I can't hear you. You want to hold? Well, MM 4412. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4413. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4414, notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of what? Pardon? Recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor Davis, please.
Councillor Burnside, please. Councillor Crawford and Councillor Robinson, please. Thank you.
The motion to waive referral carries 36-4.
On the item, on favor, carried. Yes, Councillor Cressy.
I held 44.11. I just reviewed it. I can release it. I don't need to hold it, actually.
All right, so let's vote on this first. MM 44.14, all in favor, carried. So Councillor Cressy is releasing MM 4411, all in favor, carried. MM 4415. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4416. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. Community Council, a two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4417. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Government Management Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Recorded vote.
Do you have any?
Councillor Carmichael Greb, please. Councillor Shiner. Councillor Perks. Councillor Perruzza. Councillor Kelly, please.
Councillor Cressy, Councillor Fletcher, Councillor Robinson, please.
The motion to waive referral carries 35-3.
Who said that? Okay. Councillor Holliday. MM 4418. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item? Recorded.
Councillor Bailao, Deputy Mayor Minimong, please.
Councillor Ainsley, please. Councillor Palian, please. Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Holland. Councillor Fletcher, please.
The motion carries unanimously, 38 in favor.
MM 4419. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4420. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item? Carried. MM 4421. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Etobicoke York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion relates to an Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario hearing and has been deemed urgent. All in favor of waiving referral? I'm sorry, Councillor Doucette, yes?
There should be a revised version of this. I had to add a beer garden VIP lounge between Jane and Armadale.
Okay, first we have to waive referral. All in favor? Carried. So what is it, Councillor Doucette, you want to amend?
Sorry, we were just adding, I had a motion, I've signed it. It was to add, to request for a beer garden VIP lounge to be located on the south side of Bloor Street West between Jane Street and Armadale.
Okay, on the amendment, all in favor? Carried. Item is amended. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. MM 4422. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4423. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4424. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Community Development and Recreation Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. Pardon? MM 4425. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4426. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Etobicoke York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4427. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Community Development and Recreation Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4428. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the North York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the aye. Hold. Okay. MM 4429. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the North York Community Council. 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. The Toronto Preservation Board has submitted a transmittal on this item, MM 44.29A, with recommendations. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Did somebody say something? Recorded vote? Okay, recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor McMahon, Councillor Wong Tam, Councillor Pasternak, and Councillor Shiner, please.
Councillor Crisanti, when you're seated, please. Thank you. And Councillor Fragadakis, when you're seated, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 42 in favor.
MM 4430. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the North York Community Council. 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Pardon? Recorded vote? I'm sorry, I can't hear. Recorded vote, okay.
Councillor Davis, please, and Councillor Matlow. Councillor Thompson, please, and Councillor Kelly.
Councillor Holland, please.
Councillor Kelly, please, your vote.
The motion to waive referral carries 31 to 11.
On the item, hold. Okay. MM 4431. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Community Development and Recreation Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of recorded vote, waiving referral.
Councillor Crisanti, please.
Councillor Perruzza, Councillor DiGiorgio, Councillor Shiner. Councillor Matlow, please.
The motion to waive referral carries 36 to 5.
Okay. The hold. MM 4432. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Community Development and Recreation Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral.
Councillor Crisanti, Councillor Holland, please.
Councillor Perruzza, Councillor DiGiorgio.
Councillor Holland, please. Thank you.
The motion to waive referral does not carry. The vote is 22 to 19. The required two-thirds majority has not been achieved.
MM 4433, notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the North York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4434. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Scarborough Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion relates to a Toronto local appeal body hearing and has been deemed urgent. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4435. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4436. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4437. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Toronto and East York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4438. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Economic Development Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4439. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. Okay. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. A recorded vote to waive referral.
Councillor Karygiannis, please. Councillor McMahon.
Councillor Crisanti, please. Councillor Burnside, Councillor Cole, and Councillor Crawford, please.
Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Kelly.
The motion to waive referral carries 38 to 3.
On the item, all in favor? Okay. Okay, Councillor Robinson is holding. MM 4440. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4441. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Government Management Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4442. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to a reopening of item PW 30.5. A 2/3 vote is required to reopen that item. If reopened, the previous council decision remains in force unless council decides otherwise. All in favor of reopening? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4443. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Community Development and Recreation Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4444. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4445. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. Recorded. Recorded vote.
Councillor Karygiannis, please. Councillor Perruzza, Councillor Wong-Tam, Councillor Matlow.
Councillor Crisanti, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 39 in favor.
MM 4446. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Toronto and East York Community Council. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4447. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4448. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Parks and Environment Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4449. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4450. Notice if this motion has not been given. A 2/3 vote is required to waive notice. This motion is subject to referral to the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. Okay, so all in favor of waiving notice, recorded? Okay, all in favor of waiving notice, carried. Okay, on the referral, recorded vote.
Councillor McMahon, please. Councillor Thompson?
Councillor Mihevc, Councillor Fragadakis, Councillor Fletcher, Councillor Grimes, Councillor Fragadakis and Councillor Fletcher, please. Councillor Fletcher, please. Thank you.
The motion to waive referral carries 38-3.
Okay, to hold. MM 4451. Notice if this motion has not been given, a two-thirds vote is required to waive notice. This motion is subject to referral to the Etobicoke York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. By the chair. All in favor of waiving notice? Carried. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4452. Notice if this motion has not been given, a two-thirds vote is required to waive notice. This motion is subject to referral to the Scarborough Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. All in favor of waiving notice? Carried. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4453. Notice if this motion has not been given, a two-thirds vote is required to waive notice. This motion is subject to referral to the Community Development and Recreation Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. On the notice? Okay, on the notice, recorded vote.
Councillor DeGiorgio, please. Councillor Wong-Tam, Councillor McMahon, when you're seated, please. Councillor Davis, Councillor Bailao, thank you. And Councillor Kelly, please.
Councillor Fillion and Councillor Fragadakis, please. And Councillor Crisanti, please. Thank you.
Councillor Davis, please. Councillor Davis.
The motion to waive notice carries 40-2.
Recorded vote on the referral.
Councillor Karygiannis, please. Councillor DeGiorgio, thank you. Councillor Perruzza, Councillor McMahon. Councillor Shiner, please.
Councillor Holland, please. Councillor Holland, please.
The motion to waive referral carries unanimously 42 in favor.
On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Pasternak, please. Councillor Davis.
Councillor Mihevc, Councillor Crisanti, and Councillor Grimes, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 42 in favor.
MM 4454, notice of this motion has not been given. A two-thirds vote is required to waive notice. This motion is subject to referral to the Community Development and Recreation Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. All in favor of waiving notice? Carried. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4455, notice if this motion has not been given, a two-thirds vote is required to waive notice. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. All in favor of waiving notice? Recorded vote? Recorded vote.
Councillor Matlow and Councillor Davis, please.
Councillor Fragedakis, Councillor Crisanti, please. Councillor Crisanti, please. Councillor Crisanti, please. Thank you.
The motion to waive notice does not carry. The vote is 18 to 24.
MM 4456. Notice if this motion has not been given. This motion, a two-thirds vote is required to waive notice. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. All in favor of waiving notice? Carried. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4457. Notice if this motion has not been given, a two-thirds vote is required to waive notice. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. All in favor of waiving notice? Carried. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. Pardon? Councillor Fletcher, you want to hold? MM 4458. Notice if this motion has not been given. A two-thirds vote is required to waive notice. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. All in favor of waiving notice? Carried. All in favor of waiving recorded?
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor Layton, please. And Councillor Matlow.
Councillor Fragedakis, Councillor Robinson, please. Councillor Fletcher.
Councillor Perruzza, please.
Councillor Robinson, please. Thank you.
The motion to waive referral carries 36 to 6.
On the item, recorded.
Councillor Doucette, please. Councillor Karagianis, thank you. And Councillor Perruzza, please.
Councillor Mahevik, Councillor Fragedakis, Councillor Fletcher.
No. Councillor Perruzza, please.
The item is adopted 37 to 5.
MM 4459. Notice if this motion has not been given, a two-thirds vote is required to waive notice. This motion is subject to referral to the Etobicoke York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. All in favor of waiving notice? Carried. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4460. Notice if this motion has not been given, a two-thirds vote is required to waive notice. This motion is subject to referral to the Toronto, East York and Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. All in favor of waiving notice? Carried. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4461. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4462. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. All in favor of the item? Carried. MM 4463. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agendas before council for debate. All in favor of the item? Carried. MM 4464. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agendas before council for debate. All in favor of the item? Carried. MM 4465. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agendas before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4466. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agendas before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4467. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agendas and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4468. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4469. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4470. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, carried. Huh? We're at 71. We have 115. So, thank you. So we have another 50 to go, I think. I don't know. No, but did you Did you notice I have the granny glasses on? Yeah. No, I need the granny ones. Oh, are they the same as yours? Now, how do we have the same now? Gord, we don't shop in the same district. Yes, I know. Okay. MM 4471. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4472. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4473. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4474. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. The MM 4475. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4476. This motion has been deemed urgent urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4477. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4478. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4479. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4480. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4481. Notice that this motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Pardon? Recorded vote.
Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Sow, Councillor Perruzza, Councillor Matlow, please.
Councillor De Bearmaker, please. Councillor Mahavik. Councillor Robinson. Councillor Burnside, when you're seated, please.
The item carries unanimously, 41 in favor.
MM 4482. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4483. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4484. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4485. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4486. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4487. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4488. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4489. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4490. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. Holt? MM 4491. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4492. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4493. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4494. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4495. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agendas before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4496. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agendas before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? I'm sorry, who said that? Oh, Councillor Perks? MM 4497. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agendas before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4498. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agendas before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 4499. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 44-100. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 44-101. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 44-102. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 44-103. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 44-104. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 44-105. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 44-106. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is subject to a reopening of item EX 31.1. A two-thirds vote is required to reopen that item. If reopened, the previous council decision remains in force unless council decides otherwise. All in favor of reopening? Recorded vote? Okay.
Councillor Perruzza, please.
Councillor Mihevc, please. Councillor Crisanti, please.
Councillor Mallow, please.
The motion to reopen carries 38-2.
Okay. MM 44-107. Pardon? Oh, sorry. On the item, all in favor? Pardon? Recorded.
Councillor Mallow, Councillor Davis, Councillor Kelly, please, Councillor Wong-Tam.
Councillor Mihevc, Councillor Crisanti, and Councillor Grimes, please.
No, the Werthers.
Councillor Crisanti, please.
My mouth is very dry.
The item is adopted 38-2.
MM 44-107. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item? All in favor? Carried. MM 108. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 44-109. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion been added to the agenda is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. No, it's okay. I got water. I'm sucking on a candy now. MM 44-110. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion been added to the agenda is before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Recorded vote.
Councillor Peruzza, please. Councillor Shan, I should say. Councillor Davis. Councillor Matlow.
Councillor Holland, please. Councillor Grimes, Councillor Crawford, Councillor Robinson, please.
The item carries 38-1.
MM 44-111. Notice this motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 44-112. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 44-113. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. You want to see it? MM 44-114. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. I should have it memorized, yeah. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 44-115. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda before council for debate. On the item, all in favor? Pardon? You want a recorded vote? Okay, recorded vote. Do we have more? Huh?
Councillor Peruzza, please. Councillor Pasternak, please. Councillor Bailao, please.
Councillor Campbell, Councillor Cressy, Councillor Mahavik, Councillor Burnside, please.
The item is adopted 39-1.
Yes, Councillor Holliday? Pardon?
If it makes life easier, I can release one that I held a few minutes ago, 4428. Yes, it would. 44.28. That was a pedestrian crossing presented by Councillor Pasternak.
Yes, on MM 4428, Councillor Holliday, you're releasing?
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. So, Councillor Campbell?
I'll release MM 4431, extending the improved downtown east services levels to Riverside by Councillor Paula Fletcher.
All in favor? Carried. Recorded vote.
Councillor Peruzza, please. Councillor Layton.
Francis, my mic is on.
Councillor Rajamari, please. Councillor Davis, your vote, please. Councillor Shiner. Councillor Pasternak, please. Councillor Pasternak.
Councillor Cole, Councillor Crisanti, Councillor Holland.
Councillor Layton. Thank you. Councillor Pasternak, please.
Councillor Robinson, please. Councillor Robinson, please.
The item is adopted, 38-3.
Now, the members, okay, yeah, just one sec, please. Yeah, I just want to, MM 44-116, it was just circulated to you. So do we want to just release that one? It's a release of Section 37 funds by Councillor Wong Tan. Okay, okay, so I'm not going to read everything. So, all in favor of the item? Carried. Okay, Councillor Fletcher?
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to release MM 44.57, authorization to release Section 37 funds from the development of 4180 Dundas Street West for upgrades to the street lighting at Sun Road Drive by Toronto Hydro.
Okay, you'd like to release? MM 4457, all in favor? Carried. Okay, well, just one sec. I just want to finish the members' motion. Is that it for releases for the members' motion? Okay, so members, we have about 2 or 3 more to be circulated, and I'm advised by staff that this is a record. We've never had as many members' motion before on this council agenda. So congratulations to staff for putting it together. So we'll probably end up with about 120. Okay, so Councillor Fletcher, you had your name up. Is that
Point of privilege? Point of, yeah.
Pardon? Is there a point of order, Councillor Fragadakis?
I've been standing here trying to get your attention.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I know you're busy. 116 items. It's a lot. On a point of privilege, I just wanted to thank everybody who was able to, colleagues that were able to come out to the Danforth to support the Greektown on the Danforth BIA this afternoon for lunch. And those of you who weren't able to come, we've also brought a lot of food back because
the Danforth to City Hall?
We brought the Danforth to City Hall, so there is food in the back. Help yourselves. There's lots of it.
Good. Thank you.
The Greektown.
Councillor Fletcher.
And yes, and just before I do that, I'll echo my colleagues' sentiments and to say that everyone on the Danforth was so happy that you were all able to take some time out and come for lunch there. It meant an awful lot to them, so thank you again from our Danforth Greektown BIA. Speaker, I have 2 motions that I'd like to ask to introduce. One is a staff motion on Unilever that has to get sorted out. I believe it is ready to circulate or
no,
not.
We're not ready yet, Councillor
They
Fletcher.
did add that already?
No.
No.
Yes, so that's why I
Permission
said,
to do that? What do I need to do?
yeah, but that's why I said there's going to be 2 or 3 still coming.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Did I ask to circulate them yet? No. I don't know where we're at with those. Thank you.
Okay, let's just, I want to get back to the agenda. Councillor Mihevik, you got your name there.
Yes, thank you. I've talked it over with the folks who had concerns or questions about top of page 10, TE 34.208. It's ready to be released.
Well, hold on, are you releasing something?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just a sec. You have to give the staff an opportunity to get back to what we were doing. Okay, is the staff ready for releases?
Sorry, I didn't know the staff had done that for me.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I'm good. I'll just do that later. So the chief planner has confirmed.
Councillor Mihevik, you were sorry.
Receipt.
Yes, so you were on page 10T 34208, so we've been told by the chief planner there is no report, so you're just moving receipt.
Correct.
Okay. What's your finger there for, Councillor
I
Shiner?
had said to hold it.
Oh, you want to hold it?
No, I had asked to hold it before, but I'm saying it's great. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
With my friend.
So Councillor Mihevik is moving receipt on page 10T 34208. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Wong Tam?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. On page 3, EX 36.37, feasibility of acquisition or expropriation of 214, 218, 222, 224, 226, and 230 Sherburne Street. I'd like to move the recommendations in the confidential attachment, as well as the recommendations of the Affordable Housing Committee. Or just release it?
So you're just releasing it?
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
I don't remember saying we're going to quick releases.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that's where we are at.
I mean, we were at members' motions. Suddenly everybody's got their name up for quick releases. Okay. So, I mean, because the staff have to prepare themselves for. Okay, on page 3, EX 3637, Councillor Wong Tam is releasing. On favor, carried. Okay, so we're not doing quick release. Councillor Grimes, is your name there for a reason?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Page 7, EY 32.3, final report, 5365 Dundas Street West. This is the Councillor Duchano's ward. There's a technical amendment I think staff have. I have to move. Do they have it? Not ready?
No.
Not ready, okay.
Well, I didn't say we were doing quick releases.
Oh, I thought we were. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't say that. I don't understand why.
Christian
Okay,
thought we were doing quick
just
releases.
clear the screen, please. Just clear the screen. Okay, we're going back to our agenda. Yes. And our first item that we agreed on today page 7. So on page 7, SC 32.3, 1021 and 1035 Markham Road. So that's our next timed item. And Councillor Fillion, if you have any questions, please put your name up, request to question staff. So Councillor Fillion, you have questions to staff.
Hope if we could have some quiet in the room, because this is one of those ones nobody's going to pay attention to and be sorry about it later. question of the chief planner. Scarborough, we have recommendations before us from Scarborough Community Council. Is that, are their recommendations the same as what you recommended?
No, through the Speaker, the original staff report dating back to 2017, April 2017, had recommended refusal of the application.
So you recommended refusal. Scarborough Community Council is recommending in favor. Let's talk about some of the major elements of this. The height, what would staff have likely recommended for the height of a building here? What would have been appropriate and fit in with the planning context and studies for the area?
So consistent with both an area study that was undertaken, the Markham Ellesmere revitalization study that was undertaken, and consistent with the city's official plan policies, staff would recommend a more appropriate height of in the order of 12 to 16 stories, as opposed to the 34 stories that is currently called for in the draft zoning bylaw amendment.
So staff would have recommended 12 to 16 stories. What we have before us from Community Council is 34 stories.
That's correct.
Okay, when you're, can you describe the area around this proposed 34-story building?
The area was studied in a revitalization, Markham Ellesmere revitalization exercise. It has a number of, I'm sorry, Madam Speaker, I cannot hear myself speak.
Please, members.
There's a lot of noise back there.
Who's back there? Who's there?
Sounds like a party.
So I don't think we even have a quorum, Madam Speaker. Maybe we should wait till everyone finishes eating.
Asking for a quorum call, 2, 4,
we're quorum.
12,
I counted
14,
26.
16, 17, 18, 19.
Just to
There is a quorum. We do have quorum. Okay, go ahead.
continue, Madam Speaker, the question was what the context is like. Fronting on Markham, there are a number of sites that have been undergoing change and revitalization. Immediately north of the subject site up to Ellesmere are a number of former plaza sites. Immediately adjacent is a site, the Meadow Glen site, which has had a previous approval for 28 and I believe 16 story buildings. Adjacent to those sites that really front on Ellesmere are a number of low-density residence areas.
So are there single-family homes very close to this development?
Yes, to the immediate south and east of the subject site, there are single detached units, yes.
Okay, and normally we would use a 45-degree angular plane from those homes to determine what an appropriate height is. Would that be correct?
That's correct. In the city's tall building guidelines, we deploy that across the city to effect transition. What we aim to do is create a harmonious fit with the built form between areas of different scale. When you're stepping up or stepping down, you create mid-range heights to moderate the impact of the new development.
And if you used a 45-degree angular plane in this context, which is what you use across the city, what kind of height would it produce?
Again, generally it would produce a height of 12 to 16 stories.
So so this is 34 stories, what kind of an angular plane is that?
Estimate around 70%.
And the density here is what, the density on this site?
The density on this site is just over 10 times the net lot area.
And in the high-density parts of the city, such as Yonge and Eglinton, North York Centre, what kind of densities do we have?
In North York Centre, you'd be dealing with maybe 6 to 8 times, roughly.
6, sorry, I'm going to correct you.
I'm just recalling one specific one, but 6 is a number that comes to mind more often than not, and certainly in Scarborough Centre, it would be in the order of 6 to 8.
And Yonge and Eglinton, sorry, did you
Yonge
say?
and Eglinton, perhaps a little higher, depending on the site size, but all of those are city centres in the city's official plan, directly connected to high-capacity transit.
So this is as high or higher than our growth nodes that are directly connected to major public transit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I'm running out of time here, so can you just briefly talk about the adverse precedent set if we completely ignore all of the standards and rules we just talked about, the implications for other developments in Scarborough and throughout the city?
So
That was your last question?
Where we try to manage growth in this respect, we do local area planning studies. We did that in this area that imagined deploying density and height in a way, understanding the suburban context, in a way that would bring change to this area to revitalize it, but in a way that would moderate the effect of the change in density. I think deviating in a manner that is inconsistent with the city's official plan and the local direction of the planning study is an unusual circumstance that potentially sets a precedent when we evaluate similar sites that do not have the same kind of contextual characteristics as this site across the city. And our strong preference, would be to implement the city's official plan more closely than is being recommended in this bylaw.
Mr. Fillion. We counted. We have a quorum. Councillor Perks, question.
No, thank you. No, I just to follow on Councillor Fillion's last question. I heard you say that you would rather that we enforce the official plan policies, but I think he was trying to get at, if we ignore the official plan, and not by a little bit, but substantially on sites like this, does it make it more difficult for us to oppose applications that are outside the official plan in a similar context in the future?
Through the Speaker, yes, we try to be as consistent as possible in implementing the official plan. It's our rule book, if you will, or roadmap for laying out the expectations of the marketplace when people are looking at sites and evaluating what opportunities might exist. So this, if we stick closer, frankly, to the official plan, I think you reduce speculation and you actually build development that is consistent with growth plans and with the infrastructure that's needed to support that growth. If we deviate significantly from that roadmap, I think you're inviting complications that we've seen in other areas of the city where we get out of touch or we become disconnected from the roadmap that we put in place in these local planning studies.
So if I understood you correctly, you're saying among the risks are similar sites. We would have more difficulty enforcing our official plan rules. This invites real estate speculation, and it invites circumstances where we lose the ability to control our planned context and tie it to our planned infrastructure. Is that a fair?
I would agree with that summary, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Mihevik.
Well, my last remaining question is how did we get to this point here? If you could tell us the story of why we're...
Well, there was an application and well, first, the first part of the story was the development of a local planning framework, the Markham Ellesmere study that was undertaken, and a series of development applications that were related to that. The immediate adjacent site went through a development, a rezoning, and a committee of adjustment approval. This site was, this specific site, plaza site, was not part of the development to the north. It was not acquired to be incorporated in that. It was a leftover site. So it came later, and only after it was sold, the new owners filed an application, and it was processed. We responded to it with a refusal report in April 2017, and the Community Council directed that it be sent back for further consideration. Staff did that, and with a direction to reduce the height and work with the applicant. The direction was to come back, though, with bylaws, which staff did. And that statutory meeting was held at Community Council in July, and it's here before you today.
Thank you.
With the increased heights or with the?
Yes, with the increased heights, yes.
Councillor DeGiorgio.
Yeah, a couple of questions. Mr. Linton, first of all, my understanding of this is that it is a development that is on a subway line, ultimately will be on a subway line. Is that correct?
No, there's no subway plan that I'm aware of on Markham Road or
Not be going
Ellesmere.
into the Scarborough Centre?
No, there's
not
some
near
distance, from some distance from Scarborough Centre.
I see. And in going through the planning process, prior to the final report being written by the planning department, I suspect there was community meetings where communities were supporting the kind of development that is being proposed. It happens sometimes. It happens. But where community consultation meetings demonstrate support for some density, notwithstanding that it's more density than what is proposed, wouldn't it be fair to say, well, maybe we can look at density in a broader, larger area, notwithstanding that we have a heavy intensification here, but when you look in the broader concept, let's say within a couple of square miles, the density basically gets, evened out. Is that a possibility? Like, you talk about the size of a site being very important in determining what's the number that density makes sense. Obviously, a small site, the density number can be quite large, but the actual built space cannot necessarily be large. On a very large site, a large number before you get to the
Councillor,
number.
what is your question?
Well, my question is, did the planning staff think in the context of a broader geographic area in terms of assessing the density on this particular site?
Yes, through the speaker, the planning staff did do that. There was a community process with that. The Markham Ellesmere revitalization study was undertaken, and a vision for that area was put forward, as we typically do in site and area specific policies in the official plan. So there is a local understanding of what that would be. This site is a much smaller site at the south end of that study area, and the study results of the work that was done imagined development transitioning down from the corner of Markham and Ellesmere toward the lower density neighborhood to the south and to the east.
But in spite of all that, the community council, I understand, supported the development, correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ainslie.
Thank you. So could you, so there was a negative report on this application in its current form at 39 stories?
Yes, the April report was the development was at 39 stories.
Okay, what were the major concerns in the report about this application?
I would highlight the major concerns being the overall scale and height of the development being inconsistent with the city's official plan and the local planning study that was undertaken. The fact that the work that was done and the city's official plan anticipate that as you get closer to low-density residence areas, the scale and the height of the development would step down. And it's a commonly taken approach across the city, and certainly in an area such as Markham and Ellesmere that is undergoing significant change, which staff support through the area study. There are ways to deploy density. Tall building is one way, but there are other ways to deploy density that have a better fit and are more in keeping and moderate the impact of that change in surrounding areas.
So what you would envision, and it was mentioned earlier that staff supported a 12 to 16 story building. So at the corner of Markham and Burton Morton, you would envision 12 to 16. The next set of buildings, I believe, are 28 stories. And then at Markham and Ellesmere, you would expect something about the same height as those 28-story buildings? If that plaza were to be sold?
I mean, again, I think that the message in the local study was to transition down to the neighborhoods to the south and east. Right. In the current development that's under construction, under development, you've got two 28s, 14 and 16. So that's kind of why we think that that type of moderating height adjacent to the neighborhood would be the right way to go within a transition that is typically undertaken. Up at the corner of Markham and Ellesmere, I don't know that we've had specific discussions yet. What height is that?
20, 25.
But if we're in the 20-25 range up near the intersection. So we're kind of stepping up to that 25 to 30 story range that the existing towers are being constructed at.
Right. And so there was a Markham Road area study, I believe, that was done for Markham Road between this area and up to the 401. So this building doesn't comply with that study at all?
That is our view, yes.
Okay. And then in terms of transit, so it is on Markham Road, which is considered a major transit route for both vehicles and public transit. But you consider a building this high would not comply, is not suitable to be something on Markham Road? You'd expect it more on a BRT route or a subway line, or?
It is that kind of scale of development that you would expect to see on higher order transit. There is a bus line on Ellesmere, but it's more of a typical TDC service as opposed to a higher order transit line. The longer range planned bus rapid transit that would go across Ellesmere would connect it into the town center.
Okay, and then the parking requirements have been met on this building?
So the parking requirements were modified by Community Council. They were proposed, or the city staff assessment was around 0.85 and the 0.86 per spaces per unit. And the current bylaw before you is about 0.45 spaces per unit. So it's about just over a little bit more than half of what the staff had recommended.
Sorry, what's currently before us is a little more than half of the parking requirements the staff have recommended?
Yes.
So if for parking, and that includes visitor parking and unit parking?
So 0.45 resident and a few more visitor parking on top of that.
Sorry, I missed the last bit.
0.6, yeah. What is it? 0.6.
And the standard you would expect is?
The staff were in the neighborhood at just over 0.8 per unit, spaces per unit.
For residents, one.
For residents, and one per.
One for both. One per
up to an average of one if you include visitor and resident.
So what's the difference in parking spots then that are?
Point in total, including resident, 0.6 versus 1.
What does that equate to in parking spots?
You're dealing, you've got about, the city was calling for 285 and we're around 150.
Okay, and then the community meeting, I understand from Scarborough Community Council, Councillor DeBaremaker said 1,000 notices were sent out and only 3 people came to the community meeting, which does that surprise you that you have a building of this magnitude in a neighborhood of single-family residential, only 3 people would come out?
I don't know if it would surprise me or not, but the area has gone through an extensive planning process that did fully engage the community. There was very low attendance, 3 or 4 people who came to this community meeting about this specific development.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Campbell.
So I'll be straight up. I haven't read the report, but I get the gist of it. I've spoken to my colleague, Councillor DeBaremaker. So what are the, can you just outline again what some of the implications are if council were to go ahead and approve this from a broader perspective?
Well, from a broader perspective, we undertake, we have an official plan that guides us in deploying density across the city, both physical and non-physical planning issues. We like to implement zoning bylaws and approve development that is in accordance with that official plan, because then you achieve your goals. If you step away from that pathway, your likelihood of achieving those goals is less. And that's basically why we recommend rezonings and we work with applicants to try to implement the city's official plan.
So could developers use this as an example on how we have deviated from the official plan and then argue that it's okay to deviate on other locations?
Yes, and in like contexts, on like sites. For example, this is a small site that was not incorporated in the redevelopment that took place to the north, but it is seeking development density that's actually higher than the development to the north and not really bringing the package of change that the development to the north brought. It's in my view, more of a site-specific rezoning which is really overdevelopment on the site, as opposed to more of a complete community that you would want to build on a larger site.
Now, how will, in my discussion with Councillor DeBaremaker yesterday, he said there's schools nearby, and we talked about the parking, but I mean, he says there's schools nearby, so students and residents living in this building, they might just take public transit, but I would think that if you're building a building that large, because it occurs in suburbia, in my area as well, people will be more reliant upon cars, would they not? What's the rapid transit capability in this particular area?
So again, there is
just buses, isn't it?
There's a bus service on Ellesmere, and there are buses. Sorry, on Markham. One bus on Markham, and there's a bus service on Ellesmere into the town.
So chances are, and this is a 38-story building?
34-story.
34. Chances are, is it safe to say that most of these residents will opt for the car to get around?
It depends on the resident profile. It depends on the unit price. Oftentimes you see a profile that's different depending on who's living in that building. But typically, we would bring forward a parking standard that relates to the actual take-up of parking in the area, the demand. And the studies in the area have shown that this is the right kind of level of parking, around 0.8, including visitor, or about 1 per unit.
Got it. Okay. And again, I apologize because I'm not that familiar with the area. What, in the general vicinity, if this was an area that was vibrant and booming with employment and other residential activity, would your findings be different in terms of what would be allowable on the site, or I'm trying to contextualize it.
I think contextually what's important in these change areas in the suburbs is that we bring density to the suburbs, but we do it in a way that moderates the scale of the development, especially around the perimeter of these lands. And that's really the key point here, is certainly not against the change and renewal that's been going on at Markham and Ellesmere. It's all part of a plan. It's the way it's getting executed, and it's really overreaching on this specific site.
And my last question is in regard to the lack of public input. I'm just going to pick up on Councillor Ainsley's comments or observations. How widely circulated was the notice? You must have that. Was it 120 meters, or did they expand the notice area?
So this was, I believe, a standard 120 notice.
So a standard 120 notice, that's not many people are receiving that notice.
Well, I think it was
We had rental buildings here.
Yeah, I think, some of it is a low-density area, so you're not going to get the amount of population. Remember, and I indicated that there was an extensive earlier community process that did have involvement of a larger number of people.
What was the feedback there?
I think there was, quite a lot of involvement in the study, strong public participation. There were working group meetings.
Okay.
There was a good exercise there.
Was there an understanding that a building of this size was going to go in the area, and was there acceptance of that, or was there opposition to that?
I don't believe that, well, there wasn't a specific proposal for this site at that time.
Oh, I see. Okay.
This came after.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Thank you. Speakers. Councillor DeBaremaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you to our staff, I just want to confirm, I think Councillor Campbell said how much notice went out. Is my memory correct that we sent out notices to 1,071 families?
Yes, staff advised me that's correct.
And of the 1,071 families that we notified, did a single one of them show up in opposition to the application?
No. I don't believe so, no.
And when we had the public meeting, we sent out a similar notice to over 1,000 families. Is my memory correct?
Statutory notice, that's correct.
And I was there as a local councillor. And is it fair that if the staff remember, like I remember, that there were only 3 people showed up? 2 of them actually supported the 39-story condo proposal, and the third person wanted a 28-story condo because that's what was there next door?
I'm advised that nobody spoke at the meeting. There were no deputations.
Right, okay. And at the last development application on the site next to this, I'll call that the first application, similar notice was given, and did anyone come and oppose that application for their 850 units or so?
Current staff on the file aren't aware because they didn't participate in that.
Okay, so you're not aware of it. Would it surprise you when I tell you that I was there and there wasn't a single objection to the first application?
I can't speculate on that.
Okay.
Sorry.
And through you, Madam Speaker, is it true that in terms of good planning, you and I, in a perfect world, would have wanted this whole block as one consolidated block to come in together?
Yeah, I think there was certainly in the idea of the study, there was an idea that we deal with development and the change in the area as comprehensively as possible.
Right. So if we look at, because now it's one owner, he didn't own the strip plaza before. So I just want to confirm with you, because the 2 sites are side by side, and I think we should evaluate them together. Is it accurate to say that the applicant, and it's on the first application, is building a new north-south road as requested by our staff?
Yes, that's correct.
And the developer's also building a new east-west road as requested by our staff and the residents?
Yes, consistent with the area study, yes.
And the developer is also building at their expense an extensive right-hand turn lane on Markham Road as requested by our staff and by the residents?
Yes, correct.
And is the developer also paying for new traffic lights as requested by us and by the residents?
Yes, as would be the case with any redevelopment of any.
Right, and in phase 1 of this development, the developer is creating a new park that hasn't existed in this area previously.
Yes, as would be required for parkland dedication purposes.
Right, and in this phase 2, we collectively are making the park even bigger.
They would be, I think they're doing on-site next door to make it bigger, yes.
Okay, and is my memory correct that in this application, the current application, the developer has made accommodation or room for a large major grocery retailer?
That's what staff have been advised.
Right, and we think that would be a good planning principle, because I would think most people might call that area a food desert because there are no large grocery stores. There's one little store, but it would be a good thing to have grocery stores in that area or as part of the development.
Mixed use, bringing retail and services to the community is a key part of its success, yes.
And the developer has included car share accommodation as per our city's request?
Yes, I believe so.
And the city and the developers increased the number of 3-bedroom units as per our request?
Yes.
And the developer has lowered the height of their building as per the community council's request?
From 39 to 34, I believe, yes.
Yep. And so when you look at all of that, would you say that, and with the park, so I know there were some sewer challenges, sewer and water supply challenges. Is it, to my memory tells me that the developer has addressed all of our concerns in terms of the sewers and the water supply?
Yes, that's correct.
So would you say then if we had a long list, there's many things that the developer has done right in both of these applications, but your concern is about primarily the height and lack of, I'll call it, transition in your opinion?
Yeah, and I would say that this was a leftover site that wasn't part, and a lot of what has been described took place in the context of the larger application. This is a more modest site, more modestly sized site that should have a more modestly sized development.
That, despite the fact that at our community meeting in the church where we had lots of people there, people agreed that that would be a high-rise site. The people at that meeting, the residents.
I understand there was no opposition at that meeting.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Okay, speakers. Councillor Fillion.
Yeah, do we have a quorum, Madam Speaker?
Yes, we do, Councillor
Okay.
Fillion.
So I'll be moving the staff recommendations So in order to do so, I have to move that City Council delete the Scarborough Community Council recommendations and adopt instead the following. City Council refuse application 16-270614 ESC 380Z for 1035 Markham Road as set out in the report April 11, 2017 from the Director, Community Planning, Scarborough District. So I'm moving the staff recommendations to refuse the application. How bad was this application? The refusal report came in instead of a preliminary report. John, please. I'm having trouble hearing myself. So this application was so bad that staff went right to a refusal report. We all know how often that happens, hardly ever, only to the worst of the worst applications. So what was so bad about it? In an area where the staff would have supported a maximum of 16 stories, it is 34 stories. In an area as we have across our city, where staff would use a 45-degree angular plane, which would have produced about a 16-story building. This one, the angular plane is so big, staff don't even know what it is. It's something like 78, 80, 90. It's something in, it's like this, that it's right next to a neighborhood. So you have the height, the density, the angular plane are all completely off. So what happens if we approve this? We all have applications in our ward that we try to oppose based on these principles. So when you decide, well, you know, Councillor Bearmaker is a nice guy, I like him, he's the local councillor. You know, we do that with all sorts of other things. I did that myself today with some of the notices of motion. It's a local issue, you know, go with the local councillor. Maybe I don't totally agree with it, but I'll vote with the local councillor. This is not one of those. This throws our official plan into the recycling bin for everybody in this room, for every neighborhood in this room. As we heard from the chief planner, when you don't defend your official plan, you greatly weaken it. When you weaken your official plan, you fuel all sorts of land speculation because other people think, we don't have to follow the rules either. Maybe we'll, you know, buy up and see if we can get the same deal. And for sure, this will get used as a precedent, especially in Scarborough, but everywhere. So if you allow 10 times coverage at the corner of Markham and Bremerton that is served by a bus stop, what are you going to allow at Yonge and Eglinton, at Yonge and Shepherd, all the areas where we are concerned about overdevelopment? So this just totally takes our official plan and turns it upside down. So, you know, I know everybody likes Councillor Bearmaker. I like Councillor Bearmaker. It caused me some stress when I saw this to have to make an issue of this, but there is a really large planning principle here that we need to adhere to, and if we don't, we really do so at, we really greatly weaken the ability of our planning staff to stand up for our official plan, our own ability to stand up for our own official plan, because we didn't in Councillor Bearmaker's ward, and we look extremely foolish, for lack of a better term, at the appeal body where you know that the lawyer for this file, who also is the lawyer on a lot of files throughout the city, is going to be using this example. That's what he's paid to do, and I guarantee he will do it. So please vote with the staff recommendations, which is what I'm moving. This will get turned down. The applicant and staff will have further discussions. They'll come back here with something or other. It doesn't mean the site is sterilized. It just means we do not approve the 34-story building.
Thank you, Councillor Fillion. Your time's up. Thank you. Councillor Bearmaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will ask my colleagues now to support the application, which is a result of a 10-year planning process that I've been involved with and my residents have been involved with every step of the way. One of the reasons that we had over 1,000 people notified and not a single objection from the public came. Sometimes I have a minor variance or a lot severance in my ward or a townhouse application, and I get 40, 50, 60 people out in opposition to a minor variance or to a townhouse complex. The reason residents didn't come out here is because 10 years ago we had extensive community consultation. We sat down with the tenants, the homeowners, the landowners, the planners, we had charades, we met in the church, and we actually, on this specific site, said this is going to be a high-rise building to the south on the corner, and on the north end there's going to be another high-rise building, and that's the way we are going to define this area so that, if you will, the intensification cannot creep into the other suburban areas or the low-density areas. So when 1,000 people were notified that there was going to be a tall condo here, nobody showed up. Actually, 3 people showed up, 2 of them supporting a 39-story condo building, because what was put in front of them was what was approved during the public process. The planners have a principle of saying, well, we want a transition. Well, we do have a transition. We have a 34-story building, a 28-story building, a 14-story building, a park, a road, townhouses, and then single-family homes. That's a lot of transition to the east, where most of the people live. To the south of this site, there is one house that fronts on Permorton, one property, one house that is actually a doctor's office. So when we talk about the angular plane, the doctor's office is a doctor's office. It's not impacted by that, and of course it's to the south. And similarly, when you go past that, there is literally one street before you get to the hydro corridor where people have their backyards closest to the building. So at the south of this, there is not a transition, but it is across the street. Then there's a commercial doctor's office. Then there's people's backyards. Madam Speaker, I would hope all of us get a developer and an application like this one in our wards. This developer put their application on hold for 2 years. Is that a precedent we'd like to see? That the developer respected our planning staff and our community so much that when he came in with an application, the first application, we said we would like to go through a revitalization study because nobody has built in this area for 60 years. This is actually the first developer who's come in here and invested in this part of Scarborough. That developer put their application on for 2 years. The actual owner of the family business, because it was a family owned that property for 60 years as well, came to every single meeting and listened to the residents. And we had meeting after meeting after meeting, and everything that the residents asked for, they're getting. They're getting a grocery store in an area that is a food desert, that all of them and all of the buildings and all of the houses will be able to walk to a grocery store for the first time since any of them have ever bought their property. The developer in this application, along with the last application, is actually building a park that doesn't exist today, with a playground, with a splash pad, with an outdoor artificial skating rink. The residents at the end of the day, in terms of net benefit, will have a huge net benefit. And that's the reason why nobody objected to the first application that came in for 850 units, and nobody has objected to this application at 350 units, because people believe it's actually good for them. So part of the planning process is to get all of the planning principles that we would all support and we all want. If you look at the new north-south road, the new east-west road, the new traffic lights, the new sewers, the new water supply, the new park, we replaced, the developer replaced all of the rental units with a new rental building. So those people who were living in a 60-year-old building now have a brand new building, basically the same as a condo, with new appliances, new security, underground parking, more amenities, $1 million park next to them, and a place where they can go skating in the winter, plus a grocery store, of course, if they get hungry. Our planners have said to us, well, we want to make sure that we have, if you will, an integrated planning. Well, when you add this site and the previous site and you make it one block, the density in this site comes out to about 6 times coverage. 6 times coverage is a normal density in Scarborough. I think it's appropriate. My community thinks it's appropriate. We've worked on this for 10 years. And what I can tell you, of course, in my history here is some people say to us, we shouldn't build a subway in Scarborough because you don't have the density and you don't have enough people. And yet, here we are. We're getting an application that has density, the first development in this area in 60 years, so we have density and we have people, and people say, well, we don't want to give you density or people because you don't have a subway. You only have buses out in Scarborough. For us in Scarborough, buses are a reality.
Thank you, Councillor de Bearmaker. Councillor Cressy.
Speaker, I'll speak from here if it's okay. And I have an image I'll put on the screen here. Listen, before this came to the floor here, I spoke with Councillor de Bearmaker because I'm often inclined to support the local councillor. And I'm sure as we're having this debate around the chamber, many of us are falling back to a position that we often take, which is to support the local councillor. We just went through more than 100 member motions where we supported the local councillor most of the time. So I'm sympathetic to that. But I committed to Councillor de Bearmaker when he came to speak to me that I would look at the substance of this application. Because when we're dealing with development files, when you support the local councillor, often it can be, not always, but can be to the detriment of all of our communities because of the precedents we set. And so I want to speak specifically to the concerns that our city planning staff have raised regarding this development. In dark on the screen that I'm pointing at, that is what is proposed here. It is proposed at 34 stories. Well, as you can see, staff's position, which is that it should be a 12 to 16-story building, is to ensure that you have a continuous transition going along the corridor, from 28 to 28 to down, and again from 16 to 14 to down. If you allow this to go forward, we are building a tower on a mid-rise site. So why is that a problem in and of itself? It is a problem, but here's why. First of all, it's the angular plane. When you have a tower on the site like this one, the angular plane, which is the shadows that are cast from a tower rather than a mid-rise, cast additional showers into the neighborhood. And so that is the issue of an angular plane. The second is as it relates to the new park, which I think Councillor de Bearmaker has correctly noted is critical. The new park, which is coming right here. With a tower, as opposed to a mid-rise, there are additional shadows cast on the park. There are, Councillor de Bearmaker, I've confirmed with city staff. And so the reason that when you build a mid-rise on a tower site, it is a problem, it's not just the principle of a mid-rise on a tower, on a mid-rise site that is concerning. It is the impact of a tower on a mid-rise site. And that is the angular plane in relationship to the neighborhood. That is the additional shadows cast on green space. And so I would simply conclude by saying that I am often in this chamber inclined to support a local councillor. But as a councillor with 1/4 of the entire development in the city, which I have, I can tell you that when we start making decisions, one-off decisions on development like this, it significantly impacts the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And guess what? The next time a development application comes that casts shadows into the park, which your residents don't want, you won't have the same ability to defend it. The next time an application comes that casts additional shadows and incursions beyond the angular plane into your residents' neighborhood, you'll have a weaker ability to defend that. And so if you support the local councillor in this instance, it weakens all of our ability to defend the official plan. And so I ask you to make this decision not on the basis of the local councillor, who I deeply respect for his deep and unabiding commitment to his neighbourhood, but rather on the substance of the planning application in front of us, and thus to support staff's refusal of this report. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have, ring the bells, please. Voting. I'm just ringing the bells for people to come in. Yeah. Okay, so we only, just a sec, okay? Because there's only one motion by Councillor Fillion, and then Councillor de Bearmaker moved the Scarborough recommendation. Okay. The motion is on the screen by Councillor Fillion, which is reversing the Scarborough Community Council's decision. Recorded vote. Are we voting? Marilyn, John left. Okay, recorded vote.
Councillor Mahavik, Councillor Burnside,
This is the vote.
The motion does not carry. The vote is 16 to 18.
Okay. On the Scarborough Community Council item, on the recommendation, on favor, carried. You want to record it on the report from Scarborough? Okay, recorded vote. This is the committee's Scarborough's Community Council. Okay, go for it. Go for it. Yes. I got it. Okay.
The item is adopted, 18 to 15.
Item.
Hang on, just please.
Well, he voted no. So it's a reopening. Hmm? Okay.
Okay, our next timed item. Councillor de Bearmaker, point of order.
On a point of order, yesterday I wanted to hold an item and speak to it, and it was done on a quick release, and I voted for it not realizing it was a quick release. So I'm wondering as a courtesy if council would allow me to reopen on page, it was page 10, it's TE 34.54, 281 to 289 Avenue Road, site plan control application final report. I had questions of staff and I would like to speak to the item, but it was just went through as a quick release. So I'm just, as a courtesy, I'm asking members to reopen the item so I can speak to it and ask questions of staff.
Okay, motion by Councillor de Bearmaker, on favor, carried. Okay, our next timed item, members, is on page 4. Page 4. What? Oh, I'm sorry. I Pardon? Well, we didn't have a recorded vote, Councillor Davis.
Sorry, Madam Speaker.
Just
The
says
vote
all in
was the vote.
favor.
Yeah. I saw it. I moved it. I saw it.
But,
Well, it's over.
but Councillor Davis, if you wanted a
No, you.
Councillor de Bearmaker, please, please. Councillor Davis, Councillor de Bearmaker, please. Yeah, Councillor. Yeah. Councillor de Bearmaker, please. Councillor Davis, nobody asked for a recorded vote. Nobody asked, Councillor Davis. If somebody asks for a recorded vote, then you have a chance to vote no. You have to ask for it. Councillor Cressy.
Speaker, on a point of personal privilege.
Yes.
An item in an award in a different community council considering a site plan matter was moved quickly to reopen without a call for those in opposition. And I think with all due respect to this I'm saying with all due respect to this chamber, and I think we would all expect the same treatment, that if an item is moved to be reopened in another person's ward quickly, that we should have the time to vote on it properly. And if it passes, then it's council's will. But with all due respect to this chamber, we would all expect that. And Councillor de Bearmaker, if it passes, it's the will of council. But I think that's common decorum for this chamber.
Okay, Councillor, Councillor Cressy and Councillor Davis. No, hold on. I'm just addressing. If you want a recorded vote, then it's up to you to say recorded vote. I did not hear anything about a recorded vote. If you had requested it, I would have given it to you. Nobody said anything. So I don't understand. How could you be recorded in the negative if you don't ask for a recorded vote? I'm sorry. Councillor Davis, yes, a point of privilege.
I don't believe you called for those opposed. You said all in favor, and there was no all opposed where we had an opportunity to vote.
Okay.
That was an incomplete call on a vote.
Councillor Davis.
I'm asking, could we please have a vote?
No,
I don't need a recorded vote. I want to see a vote.
Councillor Davis, the only time we have a recorded vote on...
I'm not asking for a recorded vote.
Councillor Davis, please listen to me. What I'm saying is the only time you ask, and you know that we went through the members' motions, we all in favor. If you want to be recorded in opposing it, you ask for a recorded vote. That's the way we've always done it.
I didn't...
That's the way we've always done it. We went through 116 members' motion. Did I say all in favor, opposed, never?
Never.
So please.
She never calls for opposed? All in...
Our next timed item exactly, Councillor Fletcher, thank you. On page 4, AU 13.11, which is a timed item, raising the, sorry, Councillor Fletcher, point of order.
Sorry. The clerk has given me a motion that I asked for, and that would be that we amend the order paper to extend the meeting past 6 p.m. and then recess, thank you, the meeting at 6:30 p.m. in order to permit members of council to attend the walk and the vigil on the Danforth. So that would be, I would like to amend the order paper if council so desires to do that, Speaker.
Okay. Do we want a recorded vote?
Yes.
Does anybody want to be recorded in opposition? Let's have a recorded vote. Recorded vote. On Councillor Fletcher's motion.
My motion
Her
to,
motion.
I think people would like to hear it again, Speaker.
Okay. If I can have some quiet so people can listen to it, please. It's on the screen.
Oh, it's on the screen. Okay, thank you.
Recorded vote.
I don't know.
Tomorrow. They want to go to a vigil. Well, that's what they want to do. How do you want me to vote?
I don't care.
You don't care?
Up to everybody.
Done? Yeah, I'm into that.
Councillor Layton, please.
I'm pumped for that.
Councillor Thompson. Councillor Ainsley.
Councillor Hillian,
I don't think we come back.
Councillor Pasternak, please. Councillor Carmichael Greb, thank you. Councillor Doucette, please.
Put it on your.
Councillor Karagianis, when you're seated, please. Councillor Grimes, please, thank you. Councillor Hillian, please.
Watch.
Johnny.
That's cool.
Isn't that cute? Look.
The motion to amend the order paper carries 27 to 5.
I'll call you on FaceTime.
That's kind of cool.
So our next item is a timed item, which is on page 4, AU 13.11, which is raising the alarm fraud investigation. Councillor Fragadakis held it down. It is a timed item. So, questions, Councillor Fragadakis.
Yes, thanks, Madam Speaker. So I have, like I suspect many do, a lot of questions today about the scope of the problem. So on page 5, the report notes that it was evident from our review some issues have existed for years and goes on to reference an AG's report from 2005. So I was wondering what is different about now than 2005 that would give us some assurance that we're finally going to get on top of this issue?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. In 2005, there's a couple of recommendations made in AG reports. One was to make sure that you understood, that the city understood the number of buildings that it had, the number of assets it had, and also to prepare a system so that it could track regulatory legislative requirements, so that when a fire inspection was completed or a life safety inspection was completed, that there was a system to be able to record that, so City Council and the city would be assured that the work was completed. That was recommendations in 2005. I believe the city does now have just recently a count of the buildings, but that other system is not in place. What's different now? It's really for this, there's nothing different immediately right now, but really it's now for the city to implement the recommendations from 2005.
Okay. On page 7, the report advises that there may also be a need to adjust the way we hire the vendors responsible to inspect, test, and repair our life safety systems. The lowest bidder may not be the best value. Performance verification is paramount. Vendors that are not doing a good job or are difficult to manage can end up costing the city more and creating risk for the city. So is this possibly true across the board for procurement here at the city?
So I feel that there are systems in place, and I found in this file that actually PMMD had done the work that we expect them to do. They checked with the division to verify if the vendors are performing appropriately, but the challenge was there was a breakdown between facilities management and not reporting that there had been substantial problems with this vendor for a long period of time. So I believe that, especially in life safety systems, it's paramount that we know our vendor, who it is, make sure they're qualified, make sure that's the person doing the work in the building. That's important.
So I'm just wondering if there were any other models that we could look to in order to improve what's in existence.
I feel that it's really for the I think PMMD, I think they can reach out and have a roundtable. I think for the facilities management, they can work together with the fire chief, and they have a task force set up. But my view is that we have the knowledge and the capability, and it's really paying attention to your gut, and if there's something wrong, saying something and getting it to the right level. We have the systems in place, and I see nods over by legal and by PMMD. The systems are there. We have to use our critical thinking, and when there is an issue around performance, that it has to be addressed. These people are really doing detailed examinations, so if their invoicing is a mess, and we can't get the documentation, why are we relying on them for the life safety system monitoring and detailed reports?
Okay. So sadly in life there's always going to be some bad apples, but one hopes that in our civil service the overwhelming numbers on the other side of the equation would contain and correct that behavior. But then you read on page 6, management was aware over an extended period of time through staff complaints. So that comment, and indeed this whole report, makes me feel bad for the good people in that department who toiled away with this hanging over their heads. So I ask, what are we doing on an ongoing basis to improve the overall capacity and quality of the civil service, and how are we measuring that efficacy of those efforts?
I'm going to have a short comment, and then I'm going to turn it over to management on what they're doing. We have a lot of great people here at the city, and I think it's really paying attention to really making sure that there's a bit of a culture shift. If somebody arrives on site unscheduled, somebody, doesn't matter who it is, if they see them, to ask what they're doing there. If somebody has prepared paperwork that's not appropriate, it has to get to the right level to make sure that we don't accept inferior work. And, you know, really, I think there was a misunderstanding also between what's required. In a situation where you have a life safety situation, I would go to Rob Blake and say, can we stop this vendor? Can we go to a different vendor? And legal is prepared to advise on that immediately. I think there's a kind of a challenge because people think it's a lot more work to stop a vendor from continuing to do inferior work. My view is to get it to legal. So there's a culture shift that has to happen from the perspective of if you see something, say something, and don't accept inferior work. And I guess one last analogy is, in your own home, if somebody came and did not record do the work, you didn't know who it was showing up at the door, if you didn't make sure that the work was done before you paid, you would not accept that. So why would we accept it with other people's money? And then it's over to management if they want to comment on that.
Thank you.
Through the Speaker, what I would say, Councillor, the important part here is around accountability to what the AG just said. Also the reporting of the information, being clear what's expected of individuals within the organization, and making sure that as a group there's proper sign-off. And those are things that we've got in place, and we're working with the team to make sure that that is. And we've also had to do some training and development with our staff regarding some of these requirements. It's not the entire group that actually we need to do that with, but we need to do reminders and make people accountable for what they have to do as an organization.
Okay, I have one final question. So you've done your investigation and the fire chief has done another one, so which is great. However, all work is constrained by resources allocated and other factors. So is there potentially more to be uncovered and thus more people possibly in jeopardy? And if so, should we be calling on the provincial government for some kind of special investigation?
I think we know what we need to know. I think this is about taking the lessons we have learned and moving forward. And I will turn it over to the, with the Speaker's indulgence, to the fire system. But I can say there are other vendors that their paperwork is not in order, that their tests are not in order, and I've identified some of those, and they're being worked on now. Fraud, it's not a fraud situation, but there is inferior work happening. So, but there are very good vendors. From the perspective of getting the province involved, we know what we need to know. I feel that the City Council should support the fire chief and what he needs to do to help to move the industry forward with a fire marshal. But beyond that, it's really up to.
Thank you. Your time's. It's not working there, but your time's up.
Oh, I thought the fire chief was going to answer a question.
Well, Councillor Fragadakis, you were asking the.
No, I know, but the Auditor General referenced the fire chief, so I was thinking that he might answer the rest of the question.
Does the fire chief want to answer? Well, I don't know. I mean, like, Yeah, okay, 30 seconds.
Through the Speaker, Councillor, the investigation that Toronto Fire Services continues. So certainly we have identified other issues. We've been working with legal. They've provided us outside counsel, and the investigation continues. Certainly, as that evolves, if additional lessons are learned or resources are required, I will be updating the chief, and he certainly will come back to this chamber to provide an update. But I think the safest thing for everyone to understand is we continue to investigate. We still have staff working on this, and we are working closely with the outside counsel that legal has provided.
Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For the Auditor General, I just want to, in your report, there's numerous references about getting information from staff about the various contracts and the details about them. I just wanted to simply ask if there was information on the contracts that was released in a default release of open data. Would that be making the city, default data around contracts, procurement, and supply chain, would that be making the city less susceptible to abuse by vendors?
Oh, that's a very complex question. I'm in favor of open data. There's not I think there's, even with respect to the inspections that are completed, the public has paid for those inspections. There's no reason why they shouldn't be public. So I think that would be helpful. My challenge in this case was I was receiving false assurances that everything was there, and I had to dig very, very hard and very deep to verify that it wasn't there, and that's the trouble. Open data is a good thing, I think.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Councillor Fragedakis to speak.
I was going to move the supplementary report.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to move the supplementary report, but I haven't signed the document yet, so can you hold my time and perhaps...
That's why I'm up, to move this.
Yes, okay.
Ah, okay.
Councillor Holiday to speak?
Oh, why don't we pause for a second?
Okay, I don't know what's going on here.
They're just going to pause till they get it on the screen.
Oh.
And then Mary's going to speak.
The who?
Okay, I think she's good to go. Do you want me here now, or wait a minute?
Yeah, let's wait till we get. I thought. Okay, Councillor Fragedakis.
Sorry, I'm just moving the supplementary report. I don't really have much to say. I mean, this report was a terrible read and quite frightening, to be perfectly honest with you, and makes me wonder about other organizations across this province that have this vendor on their list of vendors, including places like the Hospital for Sick Children and the Toronto District School Board. So it's very frightening, worrying about the seniors, worrying about our children, but I have every faith in the fire chief and facilities management, and of course through the Auditor General, these findings that we're going to get to a better place.
Thank you. Councillor Holiday to speak.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I actually had put my name intending to move the supplemental recommendations, but as Councillor Fragedakis held the item and moved them, there is no utility for that. But I will just take a moment to say thank you to all the hands that were involved in preparing this audit. It is of incredible importance for safety of our staff in these buildings, our visitors to these buildings, to the public that visits these buildings, and of course to the general public at large, because of the lessons learned about the processes around fire alarm inspections and the problems that are out there. Of course, the Auditor General and her team, the Canadian Fire Alarm Association that provided advice to the Auditor General, all of the agencies that she worked with, the fire chief, the deputy fire chief who were involved in this, and city management who have risen to the occasion to react to the findings of the auditor's report and move very vigorously to investigate deeper the situation that we have here and put a plan together to address it immediately. We did spend quite a bit of time in the audit committee going through this and understanding the implications. I thank the members of the audit committee who put their heart and soul into examining this and all of the supplemental reports that were prepared in short order between the audit committee and this council meeting to make sure that everything was documented. And I guess the relatively short debate on this is testament that quite a bit of work has been done to get on top of this situation and to correct things going forward. And part of the Auditor General's recommendations will be ones that are sweeping beyond the borders of Toronto, with requests to at the Ontario level to the government to make some changes, to consider some regulatory changes that will improve the industry at large and therefore improve public safety. And for that, really, as a member of council, as a chair of the audit committee, and really, frankly, as a citizen of this city, I'm really grateful for that, and for the public confidence that this audit brings to our government and to the systems that are out there. And the one final note, this audit was the result of somebody that contacted, I believe through the vector of the Fraud and Waste Hotline, made a complaint, saw something that they weren't happy with. And really that is a testament that the system works. If somebody sees or believes something isn't right, wherever they are, if they're a member of the public, if they're a member of staff, if they're a vendor, they should know that there is a place to go to bring your concerns, that they are looked at very, very seriously by the Auditor General and her team, and the appropriate actions are taken. Even if it's not immediately apparent, it does take some time to go through some things, as we know with this audit, but we really do appreciate people coming forward with that type of information, and we have a stronger government because of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Councillor Fillion.
Thank you. I agree with everything the Audit Committee Chair said. Just want to thank the Auditor General for an outstanding investigation and the Fire Department for stepping up. I just kind of want to make sure we don't easily get over our shock at what happened here, and it's great that it got investigated and uncovered, and we have a series of recommendations to fix it all, but I hope that everyone is still suitably appalled that this happened in the first place, and that we will change the culture in this place so this kind of thing cannot continue to happen.
Okay, on the item?
Recorded vote.
Okay, recorded vote. On the amendment.
Sorry, Stephen. They came to me.
Recorded vote.
They didn't say you were. Well, they were here asking me that there. Oh, really? Oh, okay.
That's what I thought.
Councillor Thompson, please.
The notice.
Councillor Shiner, when you are seated. Councillor Davis. Councillor Matlow, please.
Councillor Mahavik.
The motion carries unanimously, 32 in favor.
Item is amended. All in favor? Carried. Okay, so before we go to our next item, the members' motions that were introduced a while ago, if we just want to release them. The first one is MM 4417 by Councillor Cole. Does somebody want to release it on behalf of Councillor Cole? Okay, Councillor. No, we have to wait for the staff to put it on the screen. MM 44-117. Okay, it's on the screen. On favor? Carried. The next one is MM 118. Councillor Pasternak. Just like to release it? Okay, it's on the screen. On favor? Carried. MM 119. Okay, Councillor Cressy, do you want to just release it? Yes. On favor, carry. These were introduced earlier, Councillor Campbell. MM 120. Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Fletcher, you'll move it? Release it. On favor? Recorded? Okay, recorded.
Councillor Burnside, please. Councillor Pragadakis, when you're seated.
The motion carries unanimously, 33 in favor.
MM 121. It's going on the screen. Do we want a recorded vote? You asked for one? Okay, recorded vote. Councillor de Bearmaker, please.
Councillor Layton, please. Councillor Mallow, please. Councillor Shiner and Councillor Pasternak.
Not yet, no.
Councillor Crisanti, please.
The item carries unanimously, 33 in favor.
Okay, so we'll go to the top of the agenda, page 3. Okay, so for Councillor Mallow, we're still waiting for the staff, correct? On your item. Okay, so, pardon? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, EX 36.4, delegation of authority for the remainder of 2014-18 council term. Councillor Fragadakis.
Sorry, is this the executive item number 4?
Yes.
Okay, I've circulated my motion yesterday or the day before.
Yes.
And I've moved it, and I had explained that this is what I usually, that this is the usual motion that I normally do through notice of motion. However, since this report was coming, I thought I would just make the amendments to just strip out the voting period from August the 1st to the day after voting day, because this will come back in January. So anyways, I hope you can support it.
Now, I do know when you introduced it yesterday or the day before yesterday, somebody had some issues on it. Was it Councillor Perks? Councillor Perks?
And I'm okay.
You're okay?
I've spoken to the city solicitor, and my concern has been addressed.
Okay. Okay, so if we can put Councillor Fragadakis' amendment on the screen, recorded vote.
Councillor McMahon, please. Councillor DiGiorgio.
Councillor Pillion, please. Councillor Fletcher, Councillor Grisanti.
Councillor DiGiorgio. Thank you.
The amendment carries unanimously, 35 in favor.
Item is amended. On favor? Recorded? Okay, recorded. Yeah.
Councillor Mallow, please. Councillor Bailao, Councillor Thompson.
Councillor Mahevic, Councillor Burnside, Councillor Fletcher.
Councillor Shiner, please.
Councillor Mahevic, please.
The item is amended, carries unanimously, 35 in favor.
We go to the next item. There's about 3 members' motion to introduce. These I approved earlier, Councillor Campbell. It's taken this time for the staff to prepare them. So you have to give us a break here. Okay, who's the first? Councillor Palacio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The purpose of the urgency is that Hydro is doing quite a bit of work and the local parkade has been totally destroyed, and that has to be restored as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
That's the purpose of it. Thank you.
On favor, carried. Next. Councillor Cole. Councillor Cole is not here, so Councillor Burnside, would you like to do it? Okay, Councillor Burnside.
I'd like to move his motion. I don't even know what it's about, but I think everyone can read.
It's about music. It's about music.
On favor, carried. Councillor Bailao.
Yes, Madam Speaker, this is a motion that needs to go through in order to close some deals with agency homes.
On favor, carried. Councillor Grimes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This motion is so staff can prepare the plan to get into the 2019 budget.
On favor, carried. And that is it. We're closed for business. Okay? There's no more that's being processed. All right, so we'll go to the next item. Councillor Fletcher, it's you.
Pardon me?
The next item is yours. On page 3, EX 36.45. Police reference check program.
Questions, and I do have them for Ms. Romoff. It was my understanding that...
So are you asking your questions
Yes.
now? Okay.
Putting my name up.
Questions to staff?
And I just wanted everybody to hear these, because I had been informed by some of my constituents, and also I believe somewhere by staff, that we were having trouble hiring summer students, and one of the reasons why it was going so slowly was the police reference checks are so slow and drag on for so long. And I wanted to really understand if that was the case and how long they take, and if this has impeded any of the hiring and getting our operations up and running for camps and other things.
So through you, Madam Speaker, as you know, Councillor, we hire thousands of students every summer to work in our programs. We did have, towards the end of the hiring season this year, a short lag in hiring of about 50 to 70 employees, because there was a lag in getting their police reference checks approved and moved through the system. When we became aware of it, we immediately met with Toronto Police and worked through a system so that we could move them through and get them working this summer, and we've accomplished that. And we've also had some discussions with Toronto Police around working proactively towards a faster process for next year.
How long does it normally take, in your understanding, to have a reference check undertaken?
Through the Speaker, I'm not the expert on all of them. My understanding is it depends on a number of different things that may not be, that each one is not exactly the same. If it's a simple one, which doesn't require the searching of other databases and other jurisdictions, it can be very, very fast. If it's a little bit more complicated, then it can take a few weeks.
So I think I'll just ask the city manager about this, because is this something that impedes anybody else getting a job in being able to have a reference check, particularly youth in the summertime? There must be a pretty large number of applications that go into Toronto Police at a certain point in order to get a clearance if you're going to be working with children in any industry whatsoever. So perhaps...
Through the Speaker, I can only speak for our experience.
Yes,
there are many different agencies and organizations that are going through the same checking processes right now, required through various legislative changes. Our experience with Toronto Police has generally been very positive around moving them through in a quick and efficient manner. It's my belief that this year, because there's so many more that are going through the system, it did cause a lag just before the beginning of the summer. And we were able to work with them cooperatively so that all of the staff that applied for jobs with us, who had been cleared to work, also were not denied that opportunity because of a lag in the police reference check.
You'd probably agree with me that, being the city, when you're making a phone call to Toronto Police asking for some expedited work, that's helpful. Might be different for an agency of some kind that's finding itself in the same position.
I couldn't speak for the agencies. I know that the volume I can't speak for Toronto Police, but I know that their volume has increased quite substantially over the last few years.
And I'll just ask the Deputy City Manager then about the same thing, because I'm concerned that for youth employment, and yesterday we heard Councillor Ajameri speak about 98 jobs, 98 kids, being able to move quickly and get kids in the summer into meaningful employment is pretty important. What steps can we take with Toronto Police to break that logjam and move things more quickly?
Other divisions within the city that require the vulnerable sector checks are children's services and long-term care.
I'm meaning for the city, but also all the organizations that we give grants to, that we're trying to have serve our communities.
So we generally work with the colleges, who ensures that students get their vulnerable sector check as part of their program and they're ready to be employed during the summer. Otherwise, it's up to individual larger agencies and the city to work directly with the police on an expedited process. With the two other divisions, there's very little hiring specifically for the summer, so it's spread throughout the year, which makes it easier to manage.
And I guess I'm really speaking more than just the city employment now. I'm speaking as a city that's very interested in ensuring that the maximum number of youth are working, that they're not falling through the cracks, that when there's a job, they can get to it quickly. Are we finding that there's a log jam at a certain point because of the reference checks that may impede? Obviously, it has impeded, and we have our general manager who can phone the police. Not everybody can do that to have it expedited. I'm asking what the really what the kind of level of logjam is with reference checks in general, not just for our division.
That was your last question.
That would really be a question for the police council. It's really a question of resources, and the reality is the requirement for vulnerable sector checks across the social services has increased dramatically through provincial legislation in the past couple of years. So it has definitely at times in the year created a backlog.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, Councillor Fletcher to
Speaker,
speak.
I didn't create that motion. If we can hold that down, I have to go now. But I would refer that back. I'm quite worried about this. We had passed a very large suite yesterday of money in order to engage youth and to employ people in the sector. And what we found was that there is a huge number of applications coming in the summer. And now we have a situation where we can't keep up. And I heard from parents, their kids are waiting, they can't get to the job. It's a very trying time, and I just wonder, I do want to hear from police services how they're going to expedite those types of employment situations, particularly for vulnerable youth and those youth who are working in summer jobs servicing other youth. So I did not make that motion. If you're going to, what I would ask is that I could take the time and have that done and simply do that quickly tomorrow.
So you're suggesting that we hold this down to tomorrow?
I would like to have a motion that would simply refer that back to the city manager to have a look at that logjam with Toronto Police, that 70 or even 70 people for us. How many other people experience this? How many other institutions experience this for summer employment? And we can't have such a big logjam when it comes to police reference checks for youth and summer employment.
Yeah. No, I understand, but Councillor Fletcher, what I'm a little confused on is that what was that executive was just the approval of a fee.
Pardon me?
To approve a fee. That's all
yes,
we
but
had at
I'm
council.
concerned about police, as I indicated from the general manager, I'm concerned about police. Maybe it's out of order. If you'd like to rule that out of order,
I don't know. That's why I have to see what your motion is.
Well,
so
I don't have it written. That's my problem.
So why don't we hold it down to tomorrow?
That would be
then?
great, and I'll be back tomorrow and do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Davis, you're next. Councillor Davis. No, she's here. Councillor Davis. Page 3, we're at EX 36.49, TTC and Metrolinx boards. Do we have question to staff? Councillor Davis?
Well, there's no one here from the, is anyone here from the TTC?
Well,
the city manager?
Maybe
I'll ask the city manager. There have been two motions that I've moved, probably going back at least 3 years, requesting a report on potential governance changes to Metrolinx in order to ensure that Toronto's representation on that governing body, that we could have stronger representation. When will we see
So staff are reporting,
that report?
Staff are reporting back early next year on the governance. The council has made some motions, and Metrolinx has increased some of their transparency and accountability measures, but we will be reporting back in 2019. And council did make a submission on its governance principles to Metrolinx when they provided comments on the regional transportation plan.
Right, that was one of the consultation questions, but we had not yet seen what the city's position was going to be. So I don't know what the city's position was on that.
So I can tell you that we are going to be submitting a report to council.
Okay. So what this recommendation does is there was a member of the TTC board who came up with an idea and has put forward a motion which the TTC, the commission adopted and sent it to us. We have no staff report. We don't know what the other options could have been or what you're thinking. Does it make sense to you if we just referred this motion to you for consideration in your report in the new year?
That would be appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
I'd like to speak on this.
Make it brief. No one knows what's going on right now.
Davis to speak?
No one thinks that.
Yes?
Yes?
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
I'm hoping the motion is complete. It's to refer this item back to the city manager for consideration and report back to City Council with the pending report on governance changes to Metrolinx.
Minimum. I'm thinking 15. Well, there's 3 new. There's about 8 that are not running. There'll be at least a couple.
I don't think I need to say more. We've been waiting to be able to have I think, a meaningful debate about what the regional transportation governance model might look like. I know we have a new government
Usually at least one.
at Queen's Park that has a position on the TTC, and I think it's probably more important than ever that we're clear about our role, the role of the TTC, and what the regional governance structure might look like. So I would just urge you to move this forward to staff, refer it to staff for their future report.
Can you put the motion on the screen here? Like, are people paying attention?
Yeah.
I am.
I followed that.
Okay.
Good. Vote. Vote.
So this is okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have the motion on the screen. Yes. Okay, Councillor Shiner, did you have a question? Okay, that's why I asked everybody. Oh. Right.
Sure. If I could, of my colleague, Councillor Davis, and I'm sorry I might have not heard everything you said, why do you want to refer this back?
So
Can you clarify that for me?
What is before us is a recommendation that Metrolinx have a seat on the TTC board and that the TTC have a seat on the Metrolinx board.
That's sad.
And it came from one of the members of the TTC, of the commission. And at the same time, however, there is a report outstanding about what the governance structures should be for Metrolinx that is pending. It's coming in the first quarter of 2019, and this might be a model that we might want to support, but there may be other models of governance that we should be discussing before we take a position on it. There is no staff report with what is before us. It came simply from an individual motion at the commission board. I think we need a more fulsome discussion about governance, any potential governance changes that we should want to be advocating for with the provincial government.
So, with that in mind, wouldn't it be better to, or wouldn't it be possible to put the basic statement forward that we're prepared to do this, but have the criteria and the requirements for the shared come back to us?
I'm not convinced that this is the only option that we should be considering. We've got no staff report. I have no idea what staff and our intergovernmental staff might think about this. I have no idea if there are other options that are being considered. We have certain interests as a city And I think we should be looking at, in the context of what's happening at the provincial level, we should be looking in a fulsome way at ensuring that our interests are represented in whatever structure there is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the screen by Councillor Davis. Okay, recorded vote.
But are you here tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
We gotta talk beer trucks with the accepted. I hear that's fall, maybe.
Are you going to the dentist?
You?
Councillor Audumary, please. Councillor Davis. Councillor Perks.
Councillor Campbell, please.
The referral carries 25-7.
You see, Councillor Davis, that's what happens sometimes when you ask for a recorded vote. Councillor Doucette, would you like to move to reopen? Okay. All in favor? Carried. Okay, so let's do it again.
Councillor Kelly, please.
No, Fletcher's gone. She's
Councillor Mahavat.
She'll pass over it. Yep.
Deputy Mayor, when you're seated.
No.
The motion to refer carries 26-6.
So,
What's the rule around what gets carried to the next term of council?
I don't know.
Do you remember?
Bizarre, right?
It's nothing normal, though, is it?
okay, members of council, this is what I'm going to suggest. Councillor Cressy? Councillor Cressy? Okay, this is what I'm going to suggest. I know that we moved a motion by Councillor Fletcher and it was carried that we recess at 6:30, but being that the next few items are not ready yet and the proper staff are not here, so why don't we just recess now? There's no point of us sitting here for 15 minutes. Okay, so just give me a minute so the staff can prepare the motion. Okay, Councillor Audrey, you have a motion to introduce the confirming bill.
We want to do quick releases, Madam Chair. There are a couple of quick releases.
Let's do them.
Okay. Who's got the quick release?
Oh, my God.
Councillor Audrey, please read it, please. You have a motion to introduce the confirming bill.
That leave be granted to introduce a bill to confirm to the point of the introduction of this motion the proceedings of City Council meeting 44 on July 23rd, 24th, 2018.
Shall leave be granted to introduce this bill, recorded vote.
Okay, Councillor Shiner and Pasternak, we're going to need your votes, please.
Councillor Cressy, Councillor Mahavik,
Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Thompson, please, your vote. And Councillor Bailao, when you're seated, please.
The motion to introduce the confirming bill carries unanimously, 32 in favor.
Shall this bill be passed and declared as a bylaw, recorded vote?
Councillor Karygiannis, please. Councillor Bailao. Councillor...
Councillor Cressy,
The motion to enact the confirming bill carries unanimously, 33 in favor.
Okay, members, we'll recess to 9:30 tomorrow. Thank you.